I think it's a really good way to think more deeply about what the purpose of storytelling really is. And in journalism, there's different purposes, different parts of the story, and there's also different incentives in different parts of the industry. So the incentive people rail against these days, but we also know are very important for the businesses, you got to get the clicks. You got to give them what they want, and that's been around forever. If it bleeds, it leads. Partly because that's what people are drawn to, and partly because that's what journalists know how to do really well. That's where a lot of the glory of storytelling is in journalism, is to go into those places. I remember very early in my career, I was an intern at a New Hampshire paper, and I don't remember what the issue was, but I was covering, I think, a school board meeting in a small town in New Hampshire, and there was a problem, and I wrote the story about the problem, and that went on the front page, and, that made me feel good, because here I am, new reporter, I was on the front page, and I think I did okay, and then I went to a subsequent meeting, and there was a solution to the problem, so I reported on the solution, and then I looked at the paper, and it was in the very back, and I remember asking my editor, like, huh? And he said, well, it's not that interesting when it's solved. What I was trying to get to is people's recovery and restoration after trauma or some difficulty visits a community, and it's a good way to remember or think about or even try to articulate what the responsibility of storytelling is, what the point of this even is. And for some journalists it may seem controversial, and I've thought about this too, that well, the point of journalism is just to inform, just say what's going on, stop thinking about it after that. Tell the stories that seem to matter, give the facts that seem to matter, and be done with it. But the restorative narrative makes you think about what is the ultimate result? What is the effect that people should get? What do people need? And it occurs to me now that I'm not even sure we ask ourselves as journalists that question that much. What do people need from our stories and our coverage? Often the entry point is what's important, and then you have to ask, well, according to who? Or, what covers this topic or this event? How do we get to all the angles, right? But what do people need is a really interesting question. Restorative narrative makes me think about that. And after a crisis, people need to recover, to feel like they're okay and that they've got this and that their community can survive and move on, and you want to help them get to that place, but also know that there's a natural progression of painful things that probably need to happen along the way. So to sum it up, I like that restorative narrative makes you think about the objective of reporting and the end result for people and what people need.